What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mind Something. If you're new here, my name is Jake, and today we are joined with one of Radiant's most involved community members, the Art of Satoshi. Now, many things are happening right now in the Radiant ecosystem, and with all the controversy and criticism surrounding the events leading up to the reveal of the entity's identity, I thought it'd be a great time to have Art on the show to discuss Radiant's past, present, and future. So, without further ado, Art, thank you for joining us today. I do appreciate it very much. Now, some of you may or may not be aware that Art and I had a little bit of public discourse on Twitter recently, and I wanted to say that regardless of differing opinions, cooler heads prevailed, and I'm really impressed with Art's ability to reflect on decisions and discuss discourse with a diplomatic approach. So, again, Art, thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it very much. If you would, maybe let's start out by telling the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Jake, I really appreciate it, and thank you for having me on. And yeah, glad that we can mend fences and everything. You were supposed to be my first YouTube interview, gosh, a year and a half or so ago, and I'm glad we could finally get around to doing this today. So, yeah, thank you for the time. I let's see, I'm a nerd. I'm a family man. I've got kids and the wife and the regular job and all that kind of stuff. But I've been, involved in crypto for many years. Read the Bitcoin white paper just a couple years after it was published, and Bitcoin was still new, and thought that I was late to the game, so didn't jump in as fully as I wish I had. I think everyone in hindsight wishes they had, jumped completely into Bitcoin the first
For
time they heard
sure.
about it. But definitely learned my lesson over the years, and really have been passionate about, the invention of distributed blockchain public ledger technology that Satoshi invented. So that's kind of where my Anon name comes from, is a mixture of the art of war and Satoshi, obviously. So it wasn't related to JPEGs or NFTs or any of that kind of stuff. It actually kind of predated that, but I really just love the culture, the evolution of it. At the same time, it's been a slow evolution, and I really have wanted to see the value, the utility of public blockchain technology, the ability to have peer-to-peer transactions without a third party in between. And so I've always been passionate about chains that provide more of that value, that are really open so that way anyone can contribute. And I've just found over time that those options are really limited and few and far between. So when I first heard about Radiant, at first I will say uh, I kind of went in on the attack of like, what the hell is this? Why another scam coin, another shit coin, that kind of stuff. Pardon
Hmm.
my language. But I really, as I said, am a nerd at heart and passionate about technology. And I just happen to know from other chains and projects and past experiences and people that were involved, and um, kind of went at them, and was surprised by the answers I got, that, it's a open distributed project. The creator of it has left like Satoshi so that way it could be in the hands of the community. Don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but it is now in the hands of the community, and do what you will with it. And that really intrigued me. So I jumped into the Discord actually in October. The chain launched in June, so it was a few months after the launch of the chain. So I wasn't an original miner or anything like that. And just slowly kind of became part of the community, saw that I could make contributions in ways that in other chains are, you're sometimes just a holder. You're just locked out from actually making any real contributions to the progress of the chain, to the culture of the community, and things like that. So I just found that with Radiant, I could have more of an impact, and honestly, never ever thought that I would be kind of spokesperson. Some people call me a leader. I don't think of myself as that. I think of myself as a community maintainer, project maintainer, I guess. And that's also probably why I've gotten into some battles recently, is trying to maintain the core and ethos of the idea of Radiant, that it is a little brother, an extension of Bitcoin that is more scalable, cheap, fast, easy to use, and really kind of lives up to some of the original ethos of Bitcoin. Most people will agree you're not going to change BTC at this point. It's in the hands of a few core contributors, even people who are crying to get op cat on it right now, and possibly larger block size and all that. I think they're crying at the moon, and their voices won't be heard. And that's one thing that I've really enjoyed about Radiant, is that outside of changing kind of the key protocol points, I think that there is a ton of room for people to really just run wild and have fun with it. I've really encouraged, and been encouraged myself by all of the people that come in and contribute their own little things. There have been some things that even I've created that other people ran with and changed and made their own. And it's not up to me to say, no, no, you can't do that because it was made this way to begin with. Um, because that's really not the idea behind it. It's supposed to be that you can do what you want. It's about proof of work. And I've always said that proof of work is more than just hash. It's also what you can contribute. Some people contribute by creating content. Some people contribute by creating memes and guides and adding to the code. It just depends on your skill set and what you bring to the table. But I think really everyone that wants to can be part of the Radiant community and can help contribute to the culture of it.
I would imagine, being so open, it probably presents a lot of challenges when it comes to organizing all of these things. And, not being so centralized is both a positive and a negative in certain aspects, right? But I'm curious, when it comes to both Bitcoin and Radiant, what would you say, or how would you describe your aha moment? Like, when did it really click specifically for Bitcoin and then specifically for Radiant?
100% agree with you that the governance, as people call it, the way that an open and distributed community is ran, and I say that very loosely, is a 100% a challenge. I never thought that I would kind of look into like what are all the types of distributed governance, what's the pros and cons and all this type of stuff. But once I got into this community, I did, because I, as a Discord admin, and people sometimes say, "Oh, you're like a leader." No, I'm a Discord admin. I, have a voice. I maybe have some social pull, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But I have no more hash than other people. I have no more say on what the code is, even though I've argued with people about those types of things recently. I've also told them, hey, if you want to go and take the code and fork it and create something new, go right ahead. At that point, though, most people just say, well, why don't you do it? And so it's a very, interesting thing to me. And I've enjoyed kind of discovering and learning about these things, because I think until you actually get deep into these communities and how things are run, and actually find out more about exchanges and the big players in the industry and stuff like that, it's not as opaque as many people think.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually learned a lot along this journey, so I'm appreciative of that. As far as aha moments, definitely the white paper, I mean, was my aha moment for Bitcoin. Um, just the distributed nature of it, the peer-to-peer nature, no trusted third parties, the core ethos of it. That's what attracted me to Bitcoin for sure. Radiant, that it was kind of a rebirth. of those ideas. Anyone who's been around long enough remembers the hash war, the chain forks of Bitcoin, the big block or small block arguments, all of those things that really splintered a lot of the community
Mm-hmm.
into different factions. And still to this day, there are arguments about that. And I'm not trying to get, kind of political about that. In my mind, that battle was won by Bitcoin, by the small blockers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's going to change, like I said. And I accept that, and will say that, Bitcoin is the treasury bond of the crypto world. It's 50% of the market cap. It's more than 50% of the mind share of the public.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the general public knows very few names in the crypto world besides maybe Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So, in our communities, I think we are much more knowledgeable. We've, seen these different forks and chains and all the different little variations that have come and gone. But just kind of getting back to that original ethos of it's a decentralized and decentralized in governance, because the Bitcoin is captured, whether you like it or not, by powers that don't want it to change. You know, Even recently, BlackRock entering and ETFs becoming now large owners of coin. I doubt that they are going to be amenable to having their big investments be changed in even minuscule ways, because they would be possibly threats to that um, continuity of it. So, I found that Radiant being uh, scalable, so kind of being that ethos of the big block Bitcoin type, but having its own new chain from Genesis, so no baggage. Like, I don't want to rehash those wars. That is in the past. But there is an alternative, or what I would say a complement to Bitcoin, which is Radiant. Sometimes people use the gold and silver, analogy as if they fight against each other. Gold and silver are just two different methods of transacting. One is greater value for less quantity. One has more supply, and you can transact in smaller values. So it's not like gold and silver fought each other as commodities over the years. They're just two different commodities. In fact, they can be mixed, and you make something called electrum, and then you can melt it down and you can get the requisite gold and silver out of that again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I kind of view Bitcoin and Radiant, is that they're complementary technologies. They're both UTXO, based off of the same lineage and heritage. And uh, I really want to see Radiant become kind of a layer two for Bitcoin, that you can easily transact and go back and forth. Radiant has opcat, so we can do covenants and all of the great things that right now opcat's become like a big thing. Well, we've had opcat for now 2 years. So these are things that I really want to see just developed more and more, and really a great relationship versus an adversarial one develop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's extremely important to have that type of mentality, right? There's, especially when the crypto market is volatile, it seems like we go through these seasons of infighting and then euphoria. And right now, we're kind of one of those infighting times, it would seem. And I hope that we get past that sometime here in the near future and everybody's happy and getting along. But it does it does bring about some important conversations that sometimes maybe wouldn't necessarily be had if we were, just in sunshine and rainbows all the time. But I'd really like to dive into some of the details within Radiant's ecosystem, and I had a few questions that I'd like to ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that has really caught my attention recently is Glyph and the Glyph miner. And I unfortunately have not done as much research into this as I can, and I'm hoping that you can enlighten me as well as the audience. But once we get past Glyph, there's other things like our wallet options and what's the next big chapter and things that Radiant wants to focus on. And then we'll get into some ASIC discussions and stuff like that. But if you could tell us a little bit more about Glyph and what makes it so different.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned with Radiant, it's designed to be a scalable, very cheap, and fast version of Bitcoin. So it is UTXO based, and really one of the genius ideas behind it is induction proofs. Induction proofs, which is very simply, are kind of like a DNA stamp on a transaction, so that way it can be quickly pulled out of the large indexing of a chain. So even as a chain grows and grows and grows in size, you can quickly find your transactions, and not just quickly find your transactions, but you can actually go back to the coin base of when it was created. You can go back to the original mint of the NFT. You can prove that there was never any double spend much faster, if not immediately, than any other chain. So induction proofs themselves help solve what's called the back to Genesis problem. If you read Radiant's white paper, the summary at the top, just like Bitcoin has its summary of a peer-to-peer transaction network for digital value, that kind of thing. Radiance is about a peer-to-peer system for digital assets. So it was really designed from the beginning to be that complement that allows the processing of digital assets very quickly, scalably, and cheaply. So that is one kind of part of it. Like I mentioned before, like no historical baggage of the main chain. So freedom to experiment and have different token protocols. Glyph is one of them. I believe we'll be getting another one soon called Note. And one of our wallet makers, sorry about my dog in the background, but Chainbow has created the Note protocol. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing more and more of that as time goes by. Uh, like I mentioned, Radiant was mined fair from Genesis. We use SHA-512 256D, so it's a different algo than SHA-256 that Bitcoin, of course, and Bitcoin Cash and all the other forks have used. So we don't compete against each other for hashing power. You can't use the same machines on both networks. And to me, that's actually an incredibly valuable and important thing, because you're not trying to steal from the security budget of one versus the other
Mm-hmm.
to run these networks. That, like I say, they're complementary, but they're not adversarial in that way either. Uh, the ASICs we've now gotten on our network, that they will help to secure the network and keep it from having any issues of attacks going into the future. So it's part of the reason why it was originally designed to have ASICs on the network, and I kind of stuck to my guns of that was the purpose of it. And of course, we'll see. The whole story hasn't been written. It's only been a week since they've
Mm-hmm.
gone on sale, and or maybe less than that now. It's been a busy week, but it's an exciting time, and I think we can kind of see over the horizon now, where before we had some huge mountains in front of us, and everyone was a little scared that we weren't going to get through Donner Pass or whatever you want to call it. So I'm seeing that, and I've always had a vision for that payoff at the end of the road, because big picture, this is a long-term project. This is not something that is supposed to be just one and done in a year or two. That's why it also has a long tail of emissions instead
Mm-hmm.
of a mission schedule that's very front heavy. That definitely benefits early adopters, but it doesn't help with the security of the chain long term. You want to make sure that miners have incentive and time for you to develop enough transaction volume to switch to a fee structure successfully.
Hmm.
So we're seeing this in Bitcoin right now with the halving happened recently. There's not enough fee and transaction volume on the main chain to make up for that. So it's hurting miners' profitability.
Yeah, as well
So,
as Caspa having basically a 4-year emission schedule. There's a lot of speculation that fees will be enough to sustain the miners, but I think it's a gamble, right? We won't know until we get there, but it's getting pretty close, and some of these ASICs are already becoming unprofitable at typical, residential electric rates. But when it comes to emission schedules, if you could just remind everybody, one, what is the total supply amount? Two, how long is the emission schedule? And three, what is the halving schedule?
So the emission schedule is really the same. Well, first off, total supply 21 billion versus 21 million. So if you want to get the equivalent amount of Bitcoin supply, just divide by 1,000, or multiply by 1,000, I should say. One Bitcoin is equal to 1,000 radiant. If you want like the direct equivalent of what the supply ratio would be. That is for really one reason, to make sure that you could still, of course, there's 100 million Satoshis in a Bitcoin. There are 100 million photons in Radiant. It's the exact equivalent to Satoshi. They function exactly the same way. When I came in, I said, hey, why are we calling these things Satoshi? We don't have Satoshi. This was not designed by Satoshi. And it was renamed into photons. So it's kind of the history of why they're called photons. And why are they photons? Because they move as fast as the speed of light. We have we have zero comp transactions. So transactions using zero confirmation are instantaneous, processed as soon as they hit the mempool. We don't have replaced by fee, so you can't front run a transaction in the same way this can be done on BTC. So because it kind of went more back to Genesis, the original kind of code that Satoshi used, much closer to that. It's more along the original line of the white paper, as I said before. Now, the block time is 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes, so it does process those blocks faster than it would on Bitcoin. And that also led to, instead of a 4-year halving cycle, a 2-year halving cycle. So we just passed our first halving just a few months ago. That's when the entity kind of came online, what we now know as Dragonball or Iceriver. So, that we've already kind of gone through our first major change from instead of, like 50 Bitcoin, it was 50,000 Radiant was the original block reward in the first epoch. And it has now gone down to 25,000 Radiant per block mined every 5 minutes. As far as the emissions schedule, kind of like Bitcoin, it takes a long time well, it never really totally gets down to zero as you start getting into Satoshis and everything else, but the vast majority of it, like right now, we are currently at 55% mined. By the end of this next epoch, which is over a year and a half left in this epoch, we will be at 75% mined. And
Okay.
then, of course, it halves, so it'd be 12.5% for the next one, and then 6.5% for the next one. So it takes a long time, past 2030, until you really get up into the higher, percentiles, that it starts becoming more of an issue. So we have a long time to develop the ecosystem to create more transaction volume. And if we need to scale block size, that's kind of a component that was known and kind of built into the original design. So um, it if blocks get full, or when they get full, I should say, it will be, a future change that will be made. Right now, it's 256 megabyte blocks. We've never had any need to go even anywhere near that type of size. But I think as we get more volume of transactions, as we get more data on the chain, that will be something in the future. We'll cross that road when we get there, but that would be a node upgrade that I think we'd get consensus on, because of course miners want to make those fees and continue the growth of the network. So I think that's something that would be easily agreed on. But like I said, there's no reason right now for DDoS protection and bloat protection that we need to do that currently. So, and especially because they process the blocks so quickly that every 5 minutes, that it's one of those things that's down the road.
Do you see
Um,
any issues arising from the zero comp transactions as far as a DDoS attack or overloading the network, considering the low amount of fees?
Yeah, it's a great question. Zero comp works incredibly well as long as the value of the transaction is less than the cost of doing a 51% attack. And now, especially that last I just checked a little while ago, we were at all-time high of hash, like 450 um, gigahash, which compared to when we had GPUs, I think 50 or so was, our average or high area. Maybe we got up to 90 at all-time high, previous all-time high. So we are much, much further ahead as far as the amount of hash you would need to be able to do a 51% attack. Back to kind of like zero comp and why they are secure as long as they're under the cost of doing not just a 51% attack, but also rewriting the chain. So creating your own chain, your own blocks with that transaction in there.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to know the transaction is coming and have a block with an alternate transaction created in it. It's not an easy thing to do, and it has to be done within 5 minutes, if not less. So it's, and then also once a transaction has reached a mempool, it's not just like a singular mempool. All of the nodes have their mempools. Once that transaction reaches a majority of nodes, it's almost impossible unless you truly do rewrite the chain, which takes multiple blocks to do that. So the investment of that, I haven't done the math recently on what the cost of that would be, but a while back, last time I did it, it was over $20,000 or so at the point. Honestly, now it has to be multiples of that. So
Yeah, it'd have to
I've
be
always told,
growing exponentially with hash, right?
yes, yes, and then also the cost of the machines too, because these ASICs are not as cheap as GPUs and everything else. So the capital cost would be immense as well. So it's I used to tell people, as long as it's less than a car note, you're 100% secure, because it wouldn't be worth anyone's time to even do that. Uh, I would say at this point, anything less than 10K, I wouldn't even be worried about at all. I think that it wouldn't outweigh the cost of attack to do that. Even then, if you have that much capital invested in the network, your incentive to do a 51% attack is zero, because your incentive is to secure the network. This is,
Right.
going right back to Satoshi's original design, that even an attacker becomes a proponent of the network because of the rewards that they receive from making blocks and their capital investment, their power investment, and everything else.
Which
So
is ironically pretty much exactly what happened with Radiant as well. When we consider how things transpired with the entity, we don't know originally what their goal was other than financial incentive, but once you have that financial incentive, you are incentivized to continue, and for lack of a better term, I keep repeating this, but to keep the golden goose alive, right? So
yeah,
it is very
yeah,
interesting how, if let's say for instance, if you were a bad actor and you had something against Radiant prior to ASICs being here, someone could have used enough capital to attack it, but uh, what would they gain from it? And at this point, we know it's definitely worth continuing to secure the chain as opposed to manipulating it. So it's worked out so far, and against a lot of people's expectations, including my own concerns, which I've been vocal about. I think a lot of YouTubers have been vocal about how things transpired, and we'll get further into detail on that. But it is a very valid point that you bring up, and that is that anybody who gets involved once enough capital has been expended, they're then incentivized to keep things on the up and up.
Absolutely. And if people are interested in learning more about zero comp and actually kind of where the idea comes from, it's written in the original Bitcoin white paper. Satoshi's, original design of Bitcoin was that Bitcoin itself would have zero confirmation transactions. I believe it's three. Don't hold me to that. Someone I'll get killed if I'm getting it wrong, but my if memory serves me correctly. And so it's not a new idea. It's not something that we just kind of came up with off the cuff. It's something that was always designed to be part of the peer-to-peer transaction system, that for smaller value transactions, and that's a relative term, is the security of the networking, since that it's uh, easier to transact instantaneously or almost instantaneously with zero comp, knowing that and remember, when Satoshi designed Bitcoin, there was no replace by fee. It was first in, first out. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the ethos and method that Radiant uses. So that's why it is secure in that way. Someone can't replace their transaction with just a fee. It would actually take an incredible amount of proof of work.
So we have a lot of subject matter still left to discuss on that, but I want to circle back to Glyph again and also token launches on RxD. I'm seeing a lot of different tokens. I was just, glancing through Discord and I seen things like Copium, Pepe, Photon, Boy, Miri, Radmallow. There's a ton of them already. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the tokens that are launching and the process of doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Glyph protocol is the first kind of token protocol that was created for Radiant. When I think first, I'm sure that there will be more alternative ones. I apologize if you hear my dog in the background, but there's gardeners next door, so she's protecting the house. But uh, the Glyph protocol, glyph as in writing, an original kind of form of writing, and so it's writing on the blockchain. It's basically the Hal Finney idea of colored coins, of taking a Satoshi, or in our case a photon, and adding data to that individual coin, and then being able to tokenize it. And the potential of this is incredible, and really limitless. It could be tokenized securities, it could be point systems, it could be rewards, it could be Chuck E. Cheese tokens, whatever you can think of, driver's licenses, titles. I mean, anything that could be in a database, and that you would want to be on a public distributed database, is what a glyph, or really any token on Radiant could be. It's the original idea of kind of tokenized um, content. So, definitely something that we're excited about. I think the potential is just starting to be realized. We've had people put music attached to glyphs. Just the other day, somebody created one that is a biscuit recipe, and when you look at the metadata of the token, he's got his family biscuit recipe. I haven't made it yet, but I'm excited to try it out. So these are, I'd say, small tests of concept, proofs of concept, that show us, the potential of using these things. But it's just a matter of time until we really have more and more of this. I can show my screen if you would like, so I can kind of show you
Yeah,
some
that'd
of
be
it in
great.
this process. First off, if you're interested in learning more about Radiant, radiantblockchain.xyz was a community member created webpage. Of course, radiantblockchain.org was the original creators website. But this radiantblockchain.xyz is what I would really recommend because it goes into all of the stuff we're talking about today. What is Radiant? What is our ecosystem? Wallets, miners, links to everything, exchanges, all technicals. So the white paper, system design paper, links to our GitHubs, all of the technical documentation that you'd be interested in, different partners that we have, what's coming soon in the future, and just a ton of different information about it. So I would highly recommend anyone interested in learning more about Radiant, check out Radiant blockchain.xyz because it's a great resource for you to find out more, and it really has everything in one place. I of course would recommend as well, and right at the top it has a link to join our Discord, so that way you can come in and be part of the conversation, the community. You can vote on initiatives we have coming up. You can recommend, come up with their own ideas, throw things out there that maybe other community members haven't thought of, or really, be part of the ecosystem and be the change you want to see in the world is what I typically will tell people. As far as what glyphs are and what we currently have, right now we have Photonic Wallet, which is the wallet where you store your glyphs. So you'll see I have a whole bunch that I've mined. I guess I'm doxing all of what I have mined with my GPUs. And yes, they are GPU mined. So will love that I've got a ton of goat over here that I've mined. And this one down here at the bottom is the biscuit recipes. So I've got a few of those that I've mined as well. There was a song included in this glyph. Tons of different ones, different ideas that people have had. I think I mined some entity. There's an entity coin as well, just for the lulz of it. Yeah, lots of different things that people have created. And you can definitely send and receive them. It's almost instantaneous as far as doing that, once again, with zero confirmation transactions. Um, so Photonic Wallet is the first thing that you set up because you mine your glyphs into the Photonic wallet. We will have more wallets that support glyph in the future as well. I'm currently working on that. It can function as a basic Radiant wallet, but I don't recommend that you store large amounts. Once again, this is kind of beta software. We're still learning and growing and testing, scaling the system. So, definitely, once again, feedback, come into the Discord, let us know your experience, recommendations. And there are other minters and wallets being currently created. So this is just first proof of concept that's come out. Shout out to my buddy B-Man that's creating his own as well. The Glyph miner, and it's glyph.radiantforpeople.com. Photonic is photonic.radiantforpeople.com. Uh, Once again, don't have to remember that. Just go to radiantblockchain.xyz and all the links are there. While we have been talking over here, I've been moving some entity for the lulz and the
Nice.
memories or whatever. And so you can see the reward. So, and I'm on a laptop that right now is on battery power, and and it's a Mac, by the way, too, if y'all can't tell. And so uh, it's mining. I'm using Chrome for the browser to mine because it is web GPU. We do recommend for Photonic, Firefox seems to work best. You can use Chrome as well. Just personal preference. I kind of like keeping them a little bit separate. As long as you have your words, your seed, you can restore these anywhere. So once again, like everything, self-custody is incredibly important. We value and promote self-custody in Radiant. It's kind of an old ethos of Bitcoin, and lives on in our community. So not your keys, not your coins. So we definitely promote that. There are many different contracts that are available. You fund your miner with some Radiant, and then as you're mining, it turns those tokens into colored coins based on proof of work. You can as well in Photonic mint just coins without proof of work, as is done in many other projects. But we found that the real traction and engagement has been where there's some energy and distribution that's more fair, real proof of work put into mining the tokens. So if anyone's interested in creating tokens, I would highly recommend, unless it's for, once again, like coupons or uh, rewards for any business in the world you can think of. They may not want to mine those rewards. They may want to create them and then give them to customers at will. It makes perfect sense. Sometimes we don't want to mine everything, but for many of these more community coins and projects, this would be kind of the way to do it. And then there's a contract list, so you can see all the different contracts that are available, how mined they are, if they've been mined out or not, what percentage is currently mined. So GOAT over here, so it's coin is at 72% right now. And you can see very easily the difficulty, what the reward is, number of contracts. It's good to have multiple contracts, so that way everyone isn't piling in on one contract and you're fighting
Hmm.
to get that nonce as quick as possible. Sometimes if your machine or your connection is a little bit slower, you may lose out on getting that block. So yeah, just like mining of any proof of work, it's distributed proof of work using GPU. And this has been part of the plan for a long time, is that we'll be able to use our ASICs to secure the main chain, which then helps secure our glyphs and our tokens even more, make them, security wise, 51% attack proof. And then we can use GPUs to mine. And yeah, you can see on my Mac, it's not a ton of hash here, but it's enough to be able to mine tokens, like I say, as we're multitasking. And
Is
then as
there?
those come in, yeah,
Sorry to
they
interrupt you,
come into
but
the wallet.
is
Yeah.
there some type of marketplace or an exchange for the tokens that are being minted? How would people go about trading these or buying them if they wanted to?
Right now, there's some over-the-counter discords. We don't allow over-the-counter in the Radiant Discord itself, but there is a one that I can think of off the top of my head is one that's being created by a community member named B-Man, which is Radmellow Racer is his project. He's creating a game that his token actually already minted out, because as soon as he kind of announced his idea, everybody was really behind it. And so the token itself has been mined out, but he actually on our Discord just yesterday, I believe, put out his business plan, and it's in different phases to come very quickly, actually. But some of those are a minter, so a separate minter from the Glyph miner, a a, a over-the-counter or counterparty trading systems like atomic swapping between different coins. So you could put up 100 entity coin offer for 5 glyph token or whatever, and if somebody accepts it and they sign from their end, it then swaps it between the wallets that are part of that contract. There will also be an exchange as part of his plan. We have another community member that is working on uh, his exchange. So we really have two glyph token exchanges that are currently in development. Who
Awesome.
will come first to market? I don't know, but I and the community are really excited to see both of them, honestly. But because competition is always great, it makes everyone better for it. But I can definitely say the first one will have some day one volume for sure. So
Awesome.
we're excited. We're excited to see that, and not just trading of the tokens for Radiant or for Bitcoin, but for tokens themselves. So, token swaps. Token Radiant is one that's going to be one of the first ones. Token BTC is another one. We have had some interest from centralized exchanges that want to potentially list some of the larger glyph projects. So, uh, you know, many centralized exchanges have a cost of listing. So I don't know that that'll be every single one of them, but I can definitely say that as it becomes easier to do it, once the first one's done, it's easy to copy that. And it's very easy then to list some of the more, you know, more mematic or ones that have more of the attention. Attention is one of the best currencies in crypto, I think, as we know. So
Absolutely.
it's it's going to be interesting to see which ones there are. And really at this point, it's um, a lot of people have been mining out of speculation. This is kind of pre-Bitcoin exchange, pre uh, MT-GOX kind of Bitcoin mining. You're kind of doing it for the lulz and the love of it and the memes. But I do think that many people are mining for potential value in the future as well too. And then things like utility tokens, like the Radmellow Racer token, the tokens will be used um, to get racers, and those racers will have pink slips. You'll be able to play the game and actually race for the pink slips. And so it's going to have kind of gamification behind the tokens that are part of that ecosystem. And I just that idea itself, I just absolutely love, and I can't wait to see what else other developers and other people do with those, their ideas and their concepts.
Yeah, I think I personally kind of lean towards utility stuff as opposed to memes. But I think that the possibilities are endless, and I'm very excited to see where that goes. I wanted to circle back real quickly to wallets. So we're looking at Photonic now, but I believe there's another one, Orbital. Both of these browser extension wallets, and how many wallet options are there out there for people?
Oh, as far as different wallets, yes, Orbital wallet is currently under development. It will be a Chrome extension wallet. So that's just another one that's being developed to support the glyphs. And then B-Man that's working on the Radmill Eraser, he's also looking at doing another wallet. I was talking with another ecosystem partner yesterday about supporting glyphs, and I hope in the future as well. We've talked to Tanja about supporting tokens for uh, the Radiant ecosystem. So we just need to make it easy and available for all of our partners to do that. But that's just some server updates and node updates, really Electro updates. That not even necessarily the node software that has to be updated at all.
Okay. So, what would you say is the next big chapter for Radiant? Is it what are you currently focused on, and what is the community currently focused on that's still within the roadmap and getting close? What can we get excited about?
Well, especially, like I say, in this last week, there has been just a sea change in the feeling in the community, unmasking the entity and getting to having publicly released ASIC miners, and I'm really appreciative that it wasn't just one ASIC miner of Dragon Balls, but it was also Iceriver with a home miner, so that way it could really be distributed to the worldwide community. And when I say worldwide community, I know very few people actually that are in the United States. Most of my friends in the Radiant community are all over the world. Yesterday, I was having a conference call with people. I was thinking, oh my God, like we have four continents on this one call, and then there were only four people on the call. So it's it's really a worldwide network, and people just adding from all over, and I absolutely love that. Sometimes there's language barriers and whatnot, but that can all be overcome, especially with modern technology. So as far as like things that are coming, I'm not big on giving too many teasers until I can guarantee that I can deliver on these promises. But I've been hit up like a hot girl by exchanges. So we're definitely looking at our next steps with not just centralized exchanges, but also decentralized exchanges. Um, Talking with swap providers. So um, once again, I'm not going to name companies, but there are two. I don't want to say guaranteed, but it is incredibly likely that within the next couple months we will have two very well-known swap providers that hold that support hundreds, if not thousands, of coins in swap capabilities. So you'll be able to easily go between any coin and Radiant, and of course, getting on some larger, more established. Centralized exchanges always helps. Liquidity of a commodity is important to its value and its ability to reach people and be available. So, um, once again, these are things that there's not always 100% consensus. Some people say, oh, we don't need centralized exchanges. Some people say that's what we need. So it's all about balancing kind of the needs and wants of the community. I see myself as really a facilitator, kind of a hopefully, bringing people together and encouraging people to create what they want, to do what they want, and don't ask permission. If you want to try and get Radiant listed on an exchange, go fill out their form. It doesn't have to be me. In fact, I don't have enough time to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
I have my own job and life, family, and everything else. This is just a passion project, a hobby for me. It's just happened to be something that has more and more eaten up some of my life and time, but that's because I choose to, and because it's exciting for me. It's mentally stimulating. So, you know, you got to love what you do. If you don't, find what that passion is. And for me, it's trying to bring um, crypto and decentralized, uh, public blockchains to have utility, to have real world usage. So that's why, I'll shout out the community members that are creating these things, the developers that are working on it, the builders, and our partners as well. So like Tangem, they were an early supporter of us, still to this day, big supporter. I really enjoy their hardware wallet. I use it all the time. So, they're one that, I can speak very proudly and publicly to, because we've already, made that partnership and will continue it. So, there will be more and more to come though. I've always told everyone in our community the future is radiant, and it's not just a catchphrase. Like, I really believe that radiant is the future of digital assets.
I think you described it best when you're the hot girl and the exchanges are calling you up, hitting you up. So that's exciting because I know a lot of people, are here speculating, and it sounds like that could bring some good price appreciation if we get listed on the right exchanges. And I do encourage everybody out there, like you said, to uh, let those exchanges know that you do want Radiant listed if you'd like to see that happen. It's not just about paying the fees, but they also want to see some engagement from the community. Um, I'd like to move on and talk about everything leading up to the reveal of Dragon Ball. And I know that there's been a lot of speculation, discourse, some disgruntled community members, and you guys sticking to your guns and not breaking protocol. And now that we have some time to reflect on everything that led up to that, I just wanted to ask a few questions. So my first question would be, do any of the core community members have any regrets on how that was handled or transpired?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for, everyone in the community, obviously. And when we even talk about like core community members, it is a like a large group. There's no council of Radiant that like runs from the shadows or anything like that. I'm in conversations with different people all the time. And it's, we have a lot of our fights, a lot of our battles in our chats in general and in other places. I think the day that I announced the entity, I've never had to type so quickly in Gen Chat as I was getting torn up and just defending the position that I personally have. Because once again, it's not like I could dictate exactly what happened in that moment. It was
Mm-hmm.
more that I could only argue my point of view and not even emotionally. I can tell you it was not fun not knowing who was mining. And I promise, I swear on my children, I did not know who Dragon Ball was until less than 24 hours before they even announced publicly who they were. And they told me that they weren't going to launch their miner for a week and
Mm.
that we were going to coordinate that. They sprung it out because I think you mentioned that Iceriver um, kind of got smoked out by
Mm-hmm.
them, and they knew Iceriver was coming and they didn't want to be second to market. So it's like watching a soap opera as not the main character, but as a secondary one. Um, and so I didn't know who the entity was. We did not have. I personally did not have direct contact with them. Initially, we were going through um, a partner of ours that they were mining with. And so, like, our initial demands of, like, you guys have to spread the hash out between different pools. You have to stay on pools. If we see you go and run off of your own node with over 51%, we are going to change the algo. Like, we had to make threats to ensure the security of the network. People think we didn't um, talk internally about changing the algo. We did. We considered going to script. That was, in hindsight, I can now say this publicly. We thought about going to script because there were ASIC miners already there, obviously, and we could potentially merge mine, with Litecoin and Dogecoin. And so we had a backup plan in case we needed to pull that trigger. Now, the big battle was really over that they were mining and getting all of the rewards. To us, many of us internally, it was, as long as they don't break the rules, we're going to, keep the status quo, and kind of knowing exactly like what we talked about earlier, that they it will be in their incentive to, release the miners eventually. Now, did we like how it was done? No. Um, I have already shared with you, a post-mortem document that once we get all the miners out in the public and it's just decentralized enough, I can be totally free to speak. I'll release it in our Discord. But it's is not something that I was incredibly happy with myself in how it was all handled. But you don't make the rules in life, you deal with how the circumstances. You deal with what happens, and it's how you deal with things that really reflects, I think, on who you are as a person. And so it was trying to just keep cool, ride through the storm, and get out on the other end in one piece, and more than that, in a stronger position. And I think in hindsight, we'll be able to say that that did happen. But but do I like have regrets about some of like how the situation transpired? Absolutely. Number one is like I lost some friends. Like there were people that didn't agree with my position that told us that, you know, we were getting raped and that, they were going to destroy us and Radiant wouldn't survive. And, even though we are friends and we've worked together for years, like no joke, like work together, know each other's real names. Uh, people that I consider like absolute friends. If I met them in real life, I'd give them a hug, still to this day. But it broke some of those working relationships. Not that they were kicked out, most of them, in fact, all of them, of their own choice. And I couldn't fight against that. That was their choice. And everyone is free to make their own decisions. I think we're all adults. That no one should ever be forced to do something or believe something they don't. I told every single one of them, like, hey, you guys have enough pull to make your own chain, make a GPU, mineable one, an ASIC resistant coin, fork of Radiant. Do it. Like, I'll support y'all. But from my point of view, we couldn't change the main chain unless there was a security threat. And that's just kind of how it rolled. So yeah, if I do have a regret, it's some of the relationships that were broken along the way.
Okay. And, I wasn't aware that you guys had internal discussions about switching to script or, having. One thing that I've been a proponent of is making sure that Radiant had a strong hand at the negotiating table when it comes to dealing with how things were approached by Dragon Ball. And now we know Iceriver as well. And, I think Dragon Ball has probably some time to reflect on how they handled things and maybe how they would handle things differently going forward in the future. And maybe we see some positive things moving forward. Most people under that amount of pressure probably would have caved. But I think the community would like a little bit of reassurance going forward that maybe their voices are considered, and maybe that they have some avenue to voice their opinion other than just making a comment in Discord. So going forward, currently how is voting handled, and how do you guys plan on handling it in the future when it comes to big decisions like that?
Yeah, absolutely. There was kind of a loose voting system previously, and in reflecting and dealing with this whole time period and everything, I realized that there wasn't more of a concrete voting system in place. So uh, part of what I instituted pretty recently, within the last month actually, was a dedicated vote channel and a voting discussion channel. So that way we could actually have proposals for votes. We could actually have up or down votes in a specific place that's meant to happen. Um, the as far as like, is that going to be for changing the base algorithm? I don't know that those kinds of proposals are necessarily going to come up. That would be, I would say, for people to create their own node software and release that publicly, and then allow miners to choose, because um, Radiant is based off the original ethos of Bitcoin, not the newer, I don't want to say proof of stake, but proof of node, but not mining node. Original Bitcoin is all about what mining node you use, and which the miners are the ones actually investing their power, their money, their capital, their time to um, to put into effect whichever node software they choose. They don't have to choose a node software that we release or that anyone else releases. They could still run the original one and have never done any of the upgrades that we have done over the 2 years, plus that we've been around. But it's been in everyone's incentive to upgrade to the newer node software because of feature sets and things like that, improvements, security improvements, and things like that. So typically, it's not a battle. With something like having a GPU only or ASIC resistant fork, that would be a fork. There's no way GPUs would be able to overpower the ASICs. But the big thing was that nobody wanted to actually, first off, create that node software.
Hmm.
I don't think anyone ever actually did. And then follow through with it and actually create a community and actually, get people behind it. I know in the depths of the battle, there would have been a a large community of GPU and FPGA miners that would have likely followed that fork, and I encouraged people to do that. Like, don't just yell at me, prove your work, like do it.
Hmm.
And it just never materialized. And I'm not going to do it for them because they bitch and whine. And I know people might not like me for that and saying it that clearly, but once again, this is proof of work, not proof of stake, not proof of discord.
Right.
So,
Well, I,
I can't be much clearer than that, unfortunately.
I know one other sore spot is, the proceeds coming from Dragon Ball's donations. A lot of people were very vocal about that. You've got a lot of accusations flying around. But ironically, this is not uncommon with proof of work. If you take, for example, Aletheum and Bitmain, they publicly announced that they're going to help fund development on Aletheum, and everybody cheers and is happy and gets behind the project. But in this instance, when Dragon Ball announced that they would give proceeds from their mining back to Radiant's development fund, it seemed like everybody was offended by that and like it was a bad decision, and Radiant's getting paid for their silence and their compliance in this. But I'm just curious, what do you guys use the proceeds for, and what would you use them for in the future? And is there a certain date that they're going to stop that, or are they going to continue to do it?
It's great questions. Yeah, I've never been accused of wrongdoing as much in my life as I have during this time period. I never received funding directly, like in any way. All of the funds have gone into the community wallet. When I and another admin, GSP, who he was contacted first on Discord by them, what we now know as Dragon Ball. At the time, their name was like Windy Cloud or something like that. Like, we had no clue who it was. But they proved that they were the the miner. And the way that they proved is they started donating from their address on Viper to the community wallet. We did not recommend first that they do that. They offered and said, we are going to turn this on and give 10% of the rewards to the community wallet through Viper, which they don't even set the address, like that. Viper has that directly kind of flowing to the community wallet. So it was not something that we even necessarily had. I mean, I guess we could have said, yeah, screw off, don't give us those coins into the community wallet, but then I think we would be doubly shooting ourselves in the foot. No coins have moved from that wallet to this day. There's, I think, 30 million that have been piling up in that community wallet. And the only usage that has been approved by the community is a vote about a week and a half ago, was done for using 10 million of the coin for our first ever hackathon for rewards. And I'm proud to say Tangem is also going to be a sponsor of that hackathon. I haven't started it yet because it looks like we possibly are going to get some more sponsors,
Nice.
to kind of sweeten that pot, and hopefully make it more well known so we can get more developers' eyes on the project and get some really great innovations out of it. So looking forward to the hackathon. Um, I did not, I put up the vote for the hackathon. because I've wanted to, and many people have for literally years said we need to do a hackathon, but no one ever actually pulled the trigger of these are the things we would like built. This is the prize pool we're going to have. This is where it comes from, that kind of stuff. And so, once again, it's like the proof of work. Like you can say things, but if you don't do them, it's I don't want to say worthless, but it's worth very little just to talk and not have action. So uh, I said, let's use these. Not everyone agreed with it. Some people said, oh no, we need to wait until these are worth tons of money and the coin appreciates. And my position was very simply, we have to use these funds for something that's worthwhile for the community and the development of the coin. And I see no better use than this. So that was the first vote. It was approved. We'd have to look on our Discord, but it was definitely over 120 plus positive votes. I think there was less than 10, maybe around 10, down votes. So it was an overwhelming majority that approved the usage of those funds for that, and none have moved yet because, of course, the hackathon hasn't happened. Um, there were also some details, though, like of the hackathon that we didn't iron out. And looking at other communities' ways of doing it, they typically have like a judging panel of some insiders and I'm using air quotes here, like industry, specialists or whatever it is, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And I've, and I'll put this up for a vote so the community can decide. I think the community should decide who the winners are after, we have all of the submissions, because it's really the community that's going to decide where the value lies in these things. So once again, like what is the path going forward for how the community is part of the usage of these funds, or even like saying who the winners of a hackathon are. I think that should be handed over to the people that are actually part of the community. But I may have people say, oh, there's different ways of doing it, but all I can really do is kind of make a judgment call on my end, and then people can approve or disapprove of that. I definitely don't want to be seen as a dictator or anything like that, because that's the last thing, honestly, I want. I've always said that Radiant will never have a CEO, and if people think that I am, I can step aside and let someone else take those reins. Totally willing to do that, because that's the ethos of the project, and I just want to make sure to protect that.
Well, man, I'm really excited for Radiant's future. I think that this has been a sleeper for a long time. I've been involved in paying attention to Radiant since almost the beginning, and I've got a significant invested in it. I'm going to continue to hold out and see where things go. I encourage everybody that really likes projects that try to stay true to the ethos of crypto to get involved with Radiant. I've had GSB on the show before, and we've talked about some of these things in the past, but I think pretty much everybody that is really involved with Radiant has a very similar mindset to myself, which is somewhat uncommon these days in crypto. But I think that we've had a great discussion about Radiant's past, present, and future. And before we wrap up, I kind of wanted to get just your general thoughts on the cryptocurrency revolution in general. Where do you see this industry going in the future, and are you satisfied with how things have been going so far?
Oh, yeah, it's a great question. I think that it's uh, it's definitely been a sleeper for far too long. We have had incredible technological revolution over the past, 14 years, that crypto has really been alive with since the birth of Bitcoin. You could argue maybe before that with some of the precursors, but I think everyone kind of marks Bitcoin as really the beginning. And it's it's been slow, much slower than I would have liked it to be. We see large corporations using private blockchains, which totally detracts from the original ethos of we could make distributed finance public so that people can't hide things, so that they can't double spend and cook the books and do the things that finance has done traditionally. And then we have a run up and a crash once people realize that there's an Enron or there's a Merrill, or whoever, causes the next market crash because they've done something underhanded with the books or investments or whatever it may be. And so I am hopeful for the future. It's part of why I'm with this project is that I believe in the ethos of a distributed community coin with no pre-mine, pre-sale, ICO, insiders, VCs that actually run it from the sidelines. I know a lot of people are mad that we've had ASIC companies come online, but I can guarantee you, like, we weren't paid off. There's the community funds, but like, there were no backdoor deals. Like, I haven't worked with Dragonball. I did not even know that Iceriver was on us or was uh, like even contemplating making a machine until they publicly released their machine. So, you know. I'm not going to judge that at the moment right now, but it maybe would have been nice if at least they had contact with us so we knew that something was around the corner. Or, I don't know how much they mined. One of them gave one of them didn't. Not, once again, not going to judge that, but you can be your own judge of like how these companies operate, and do what they do. That's their business. My business is just trying to make sure that Radiant stays secure, it grows, that the community is nurtured, it grows and stays, distributed around the world, and that there's no one um, player or players that can then dictate, the future of the coin that veers away from its intended purpose. So I'm really excited because I think with Radiant, we have one of our first true uh, digital asset systems that is distributed, that is not controlled by a VC or company behind it. We just created the Radiant Foundation, but that was created by community members. It's not got huge funding or anything like that. It's going to be just like the rest of the community, kind of bootstraps, and that's that's kind of what I'd like. It will be nice, as like you mentioned, like Bitmain, tells a lithium. And by the way, I love a lithium. I met Maud at WDMS a while back, and she's amazing. So I have nothing but love for that community. I met Shy there as well too. So nothing but love for Caspa. I see us as not necessarily competitors, but as different entities within the same ecosystem that are all kind of battling to prove our worth, in the long run. And I do take a long kind of view at the entire project because I'm not planning on going away anytime soon. I want to see this succeed, and sometimes doing things correctly is more important than doing it quickly. And we are talking about finance and money and commodities, so it's incredibly important that you do these things right the first time. So that's why it took so long for our NFT standards and our tokens. But we didn't have to do it a second time. They've ran since day one. So that's something we're really, really proud of. Um, if anything, I wish we were more well known in the ecosystem, but I think that's something that marketing and stuff like that buys you. I also would say that uh, you asked about kind of like the digital asset or crypto revolution, how it's going. I am in the States. I think you are as well.
Hmm.
Our laws are not well defined. If anything, they are incredibly poorly defined. And our government has gone after um, many companies in the space, uh, and it's created a culture of fear in the United States, which has pushed so many people overseas, or made it so that overseas actors can get, I think, a larger share of the pie because they are more free to be themselves and do and run. I work for a large tech company here in the States, and so I want to keep my job, and at least until I can, just make it Radiant only, which I would absolutely love to do in the future if it ever, becomes to that. But it's also, like skirting around the legalities. I can't emote or pump, like other people in other countries can do,
Hmm.
and because of our laws here. And so it's, once again, we need clarity. We need the rules set in stone. We are supposed to be a country of laws and law and order, and we need that clarity so that way we can really become the innovative, um, capitalistic country that we used to be. I think we still hold those values, true, at least the people of the United States do. I think our government has gone off the rails in many ways in going after crypto to the benefit of banks, and I'll just plainly say that because we know who lobbies and who gives big checks to representatives and presidents and everything else. And so I think they've done a great job squashing a lot of the innovation that could come from the United States. But you have to remember, what country developed the microprocessor and developed a lot of the software we use around the world, and a ton of the innovation. Maybe some manufacturing is done overseas, but it's typically designed in the United States. So we need to get back to that. We need to grow that. A lot of our GDP um, should and would come from that type of innovation. This is the digital economy we're in now. Can't just lean on AI. It's amazing how much the government and everyone's all out after AI, but they were against crypto.
Hmm.
Once again, it kind of comes back to who is investing and who are they lobbying. A lot of these people are very well connected Silicon Valley people that are in the AI space. So they have the ear of their friends to begin with. So, once again, I'm very hopeful for the future. We'll see what happens this election cycle. I think there could be a sea change that happens after it. We'll just kind of have to see which way those dominoes fall. And I'm very hopeful that like 2025 will become a renaissance year for it, so that people like you and me can un and ourselves. We can dox ourselves, and feel more comfortable. We can do that dual face reveal if you're ever down for
It's
that.
coming soon, man. It is coming soon. And for those of you who are still here with us, yeah, 7,000 subs. I am supposed to do a face reveal, and we're about 150 subs away, so we're getting real close. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And this has been very insightful. I want to say thank you to Artist Satoshi for taking the time to visit with us today, touch on some topics that are difficult conversations to have. But you got to look for people in the community that are willing to have those difficult conversations and to explain their positions in a professional and diplomatic manner. And I think that Art has done a great job of that today. And I really do look forward to the future of Radiant. And I encourage everybody who's listening right now that doesn't know much about Radiant to get involved. And Art, if you could tell them what's the best ways to get involved? I assume maybe the Discord, but are there some other resources that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, join the Discord. There's tons of links off of the Radiant Blockchain.xyz. Follow the Radiant Foundation. I'm at the Artist Satoshi if you want to follow me on X as well or Twitter. We have Planet Radiant, which is another community-run account that is very involved in posting all the time. We have a Telegram group as well. I'm a little less involved with that group, but I definitely check in from time to time. And yeah, just jump in the Discord. Tell us you hate us, you love us, your ideas, whatever it is, because that makes us all better. It really does. And whether or not people choose to be part of the Radiant community, I hope that you as well advocate for, the evolution of crypto. Go vote, become part of the conversation, because all ships rise with the tide, and we really do need open and public information and discourse, so that way we as people can move forward. Because in the future of AI and digital assets and DePIN and DeFi and all these things, we want to make sure that our human voices are heard and not just dictated to us. And the best way that you can do that is by demanding kind of, rules and public discourse, because things can't be decided for us, in back rooms. So, um, thank you so much for your time. I know we had talked about doing a short video, so this is kind of, I'm looking at the time going, oh man, did we just go 2 hours? It's insane, but almost, but yeah. But no, it's great to talk with you. Um, really appreciate it, and love your content, and maybe break this into a couple of videos. I don't know. It's totally up to you.
That's going to wrap it up,
Um,
guys. I appreciate you joining. Be sure to hit that like and hit that subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next one.